Hi, it's Ray from Pro Shaper Workshop in Charlton, Massachusetts. We got another installment on this small motorcycle fender, and what we're going to do now is planish these sides out. We started, you can see the difference. This is pre-planishing, this is after planishing, and we got this little ducktail going on here. We want to refine that a little bit. We're going to clean the edges up and stuff. Now you remember when I do these videos, we try to do them as quick as possible. It's not the best work that I do. There's a few little flaws from the wheeling and stuff. If this was an actual job, they wouldn't exist. I've got this motorcycle fender, motorcycle wheel right here, and that's what the fender is going to fit. And you can see I've got to pull it in a little bit better. So I'll make this fender fit this. In order to do that, I'll make a cardboard template to shrink each side, because each side has to be independently shrunk with the kick shrinker, and then I'll fit it to the cardboard, the same piece of cardboard, and probably the fender would stick up something like that. I'm not a motorcycle expert by any stretch. Actually, I don't know that much about motorcycles at all. One of the comments was that this would probably break in 15 minutes if I put it on a motorcycle, because it's not out of 14 gauge or something, and I really don't believe that to be a true comment. I think this is fine. So we're going to smooth this flange out. Now I have control of the planishing hammer here. I can speed it up or slow it down. Generally that's too much. That'd be for taking big heavy walnuts out or something. Stuff. I've got a flat die in there. So what you want to do is turn it up to a point where it starts to level the metal.
What we do is, if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly.
And oftentimes the die will strike here, which will make a mark over here or bug that edge up a little bit. So this one is a die with a nice rounded edge on it, and it's kind of riding right on that radius. So that's something you always have to be concerned about with a planishing hammer. Now, another nice feature of this planishing hammer is it's an old Chicago pneumatic head, which was it came with this framework. And I have two of these. They were sold in the 50s, I think, for like $100 back in the early 50s. And that head would slide into here, and then you put your die in right here. And it only had a limited throat. If you're lucky to find one of those, I found mine at a flea market like 30 years ago, and I found another one about a couple 5 years ago or so. And I have two. One I have and I use with the arms I made up, and this one, the nice feature of it is you have this foot pedal, so you got both hands on the panel, and the foot pedal is both the control for the amount of hits you hit, and then the force of the hit. The more you step on the foot pedal, the faster it'll go, and it'll squeeze more. So you got a really nice control with it. Now if you work it and it doesn't set those down, then you just crank the pressure up a little more. Set it up a little more. And as you work this, it'll tend to open this up a little bit because you're going to be stretching this, and that'll cause that to open. But we're going to have to shrink it again, and we might have to planish it again to get those shrink marks out. It does a really nice job. Now this planishing hammer, I'll show you another feature of it too, is that I made it so you loosen these up here, and then you can drag the arm forward and backwards. Sometimes it sticks here. We'll try to. Yeah. It's got a little bit of range, so you see you can go out to there, or you can go to there. And what you can do with that is you can set the die where you want it to hit, which is a nice little feature. So right now I'm going to just set it in the center. And I also have the ability to, this has the ability to slide, these holes are hogged out a little bit, and it'll slide this way and that way a little bit, but this can make it slide too. And these two screws control the angle of where it hits on the die here. So right now I have it kind of pinching in the front. I set it that way. And then I have a lock here that I can take a 3/8 Allen and I can lock the die solid if it's a directional die. This is a squeezer setup right here, which is another nice feature. And then I have a hydraulic lift, so I've got about an 8-inch throw or so, and oftentimes I put this riser in here like this. We took the riser out in order to get this fender in that little tight confines. If we had the riser in there, we wouldn't be able to do it. So, and this was an old drill press column that I made this out of, but this could be all fabricated from fresh stuff. 4x4 tubing or 4x6 tubing would make a good backbone. And then you have this nice little interface that was on the drill press that allows the raising and lowering of the arm. And you can put a hydraulic on it. You can get an air over hydraulic cylinder to pump it up or whatever. So there's a lot of nice potentials. And I really do plan to make a plan or something. I got lots of plans to do, but I'm super busy, so you have to be patient. But some of the people out there that can innovate on their own, they can say, oh, that's a good idea, and then they can go from that. Alright, so that's smoothed up. We'll probably have to go through the planishing hammer one more time. And they opened up this way a little bit. I got to get them at 90. We'll just slap them down. And that will change the diameter of this too. So the next step that I want to do is make a cardboard template of the diameter that I need here. So I'll have to take a big compass that I have and make that gauge, and so I can get both sides the same. So we'll make that gauge next. Alright, so we made this template including the little ducktail there, and as you can see we got a good ways to go. So we'll probably put that like that and then have to bring that around. So both sides will have to be done. So I spoke a little bit about my planishing hammer, and I think the planishing hammer is a necessary tool if you're going to try to do this work. And there are inexpensive planishing hammers, but they really don't have a lot of features. So you have to start out sometimes with an inexpensive one. Then you can either build one yourself or buy one. There's a few of them out there that are pretty good. So let's talk a little bit about the shrinker. This is a shrinker I designed. I've got a couple of these. The other one's not finished, and then I have another design that I'm in the process of building. These put out about 5 tons of pressure, and that's what you need to actuate these stipple dies in a good way. This throat never really gets used because the depth of this capability of this shrinker is about 1.5 inches. That's it. If you're going to go more than 1.5 inches, you have to have more than 5 tons of pressure. In the new design I have, I think I'll be able to get 10 tons out of it. The Urcos are a good standard workhorse machine, and they put out about 5 tons. I have Urco dies in this. I have a feature that I can adjust the dies up and down, and I use just shims under here, but my other ones I am going to put an adjuster so that I can actually move the plate or the die clearance in and out very easily. The Marchands have an adjuster up here, which is nice. I could put it up there too, but I think I'm going to put it down here. Now when I designed this, I wanted to overcome some of the shortcomings of the Urco. The Urco doesn't have any overhang here, so that allows the panel to come down like this. But almost all the panels I can get my shrinking done with this machine, and I can't get them done with the Urco. Now when you're working and you've got a big panel, the panels out here, it's very difficult to use the kick part of it. So I made this little drop down deal here, and now I can have like a door skin or whatever and kick that very easily. So it's a really bad shin bumper, but it's a good thing to have. So another feature I have on this is the dies. On the Urcos they used these crazy little U-clips, and later they changed to a dovetail, but all you really need is a tang hanging down. It's the same tang that's on the Urco. That's the original Urco C-clips that go in there and anchor it, and they just kind of flop in here. But I just made a little squeeze die, very simple, couple little screws here, just tighten them up finger tight, and it locks them really nice. Change the dies out real fast. It's great to have one machine with the shrinks and one with the stretch, but these are expensive to build, so sometimes you have to build this stuff yourself if you don't want to spend all the money. And that was my case. I couldn't afford to buy all the high-priced machines that are on the market, really, that are aimed at the aircraft industry where it's unlimited funds there. So I had to build my own, I had to design my own. So another nice feature is sometimes you want to move this around the shop. So I built a lift right into it. So it has 2 wheels, and it'll teeter-totter on those wheels. And then I've got these rubber foot pads. I turn those up. If I get them turned up, then it sets back on a caster in the back, and I can scoot around the shop with this real easy. And this probably weighs about 700 pounds too, so pretty nice to be able to move it around where you want. So now it's sitting on its feet. It'll creep a little bit because when you're really kicking, they'll work a little bit, so they'll walk a little bit. So let's try shrinking this up. We get this pulled in. We might have to planish this again. We're going to weld the skirt on here that's a little longer. We'll have to do a design and see how it looks. And these Urco dies, they work with a ramp, so when you squeeze them together, the dies come together because they're riding on the ramps. They change this vertical motion into horizontal motion, and they're hardened. And these ramps, when they get dry, they have to be their effectiveness goes down really low. They won't shrink so much. So you have to use a graphite grease. That's a high pressure grease. It's also used for anti-seize compound. And you put that on the ramps, and that improves their performance quite markedly. So let's put this on the bench here, and we'll see where we're at. We got a good ways to go. So we'll start over like here. And this is always a little tricky for newbies to figure out where to shrink. So we're following the line here, and it starts to go off the line about right here. So I'm going to register it. Well, it's an inch right here. That tail is an inch from here, so I don't have my marker with me right now. Well, let me go get my marker just in case. It'll be a good idea. Yeah, I think it was in my February class. Larry Adamson came to my February class. He had this thing hanging on his pocket. I says, "What's that?" He says, "Oh, Home Depot has them, but I guess you can get them a bunch of different places." And I think they're $2. They'll clip on like that, and now you can take this and you take off your cap and you can mark it, and boom, it goes right back. You don't lose your marker. So you can also unclip it like this. It comes with a regular carpenter's pencil. You just put that aside and we'll put the markers in here. Now I had switched to Milwaukee's, but today I've got a Sharpie, so don't report me to Milwaukee, please. We're going to use this little marker. We're going to index it. We'll index it right here. So we're right on the line up to about here, so that's where we got to be. So that's about 5 inches or so from there, and I'll bump it a couple times, and that'll pull that right in. And this is a common problem across the board when you're shrinking, is to know where to shrink. And you have to follow the blueprint, which is that nice radius gauge, and you don't want to come in all the way, because then you're asking it to move from here, and what you need to do is close up this material here. It's always think in terms of triangles. That skirt is closing up just like that. That triangle legs are closing. So we're going to give it a couple little bumps, and then we'll check our results. Now if we go too far, we put the stretch die in, and we can reverse our action. So metal is clay. You can shrink, you can stretch, you can shrink, you can stretch, you can shrink, you can stretch. The metal will take it. You just can't do it excessively. Just like clay, if you work it too hard, boom, it'll break. And clay you can weld back together by just pushing it into itself. Metal you have to weld by adding the heat element. So we're down to here now, so we've gained that much. Now you just hold your thumb on it, go halfway in, and give it a couple bumps, spread them out. That makes it nice and even. The same amount of force every time. You cycle that foot pedal. It has some counterweights on it that it's bumping against. Alright, so now we're going all the way to about here, and it's starting to come off a little bit, just a little bit. There's a little overbend right there. We might have to bring that back. Yeah, so, yeah, there's a little overbend, I think. Right here, it's diving in. strong. And then we got to bring this around some more right here. Now we're not going to finalize this because we're going to do this side preliminary, do this side preliminary, and then we'll come back and we'll dial them in really nice. You have to be patient. You're not going to get excellent results unless you exercise patience every minute. Alright, so that's getting pretty close. Let's put it in. We'll put it in this way. We'll put the stretch jaws in and stretch that out a little bit after. Alright, so that's fitting pretty close now. I got to pull it around some more. Let's see. Well, right about there, a little bit more. But let's do the other side first. So that's the way we were. We were like this. In just a few minutes, we've pulled that into where it needs to be. And then we'll do a check on the tire too to make sure we made this gauge properly. So let's get a plan for this side. We'll get an index mark here. So this looks like it's running pretty good in the center, but on the ends it's not accurate. So from here to here is pretty close. So I don't have to shrink in the middle. I got to shrink this way and that way. We're pretty busy this week, so we didn't get any videos out early in the week. It's now Thursday night, and we're hoping to do a couple videos, maybe 3. We'll see. Mark says he'll edit them at home, so I didn't put the marks in here. Let's see. Still need more. A little bit more, both ends. My cameraman, Mark, and my editor got some nice comments in the comments section, and he's grateful for those. He always likes a little attention. So that's looking pretty good there. Looks like I overdeveloped it here a little bit, so we're going to bring that back. So what we'll do now is we'll just go see how this fits on the wheel to see if it's in the neighborhood. Yeah, that's looking really good. We still have the problem where the sides came out a little bit, so I'm going to get them to 90 degrees. We're going to slap them down. So I get my slapper, and just slapping these down can cause the radius to open up a little bit, so we're going to have to planish it again too, but it'll be a light planish this time. When you use the slapper, you want to hit it the long way. If you hit it the short way like this, you're apt to dent it with the sides here. This ducktail, we might just let those flare out a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. We're going to round this off and stuff. We're going to bring these out a little bit more, and we might have to reduce that peak a little bit. It might hold us from going out a little bit, so we might have to hammer that down or wheel that down just a little bit. Decided before I go shrink it again, I'm going to planish it one more time. Now you can pull this down with the planishing hammer too, so I wanted to do that. Now let's go over to the shrinker again. And you see that opened it up a little bit, so we'll have to shrink her up a little more. Get back on this side here. Both the angle change and the shrinking caused the problem. Okay, so now with that angle change, narrow this up, now I've got an interference problem here. So there's a way around that. Let me show you how to do that. Now this is a special die called a channel die that Urco makes. And no big secrets here. I mean, it's easy to make, well, not easy to make these dies, but you can make them. Now that has too much gap clearance, so I'm going to have to put a shim in here. So I loosen that up, throw my shim in, and I should be in business. So it's going off right there. So I'm going to get my gloves on here. I overdid it right there. It's going to have to be stretched back out. And then this one just needs to come in. These dies are designed for doing C-channel with a 1-inch leg, but it allows you to do a flange like this. It's a nice little feature. A little bit more here. Now you can do this with an inexpensive shrinker. We have these are the Harbor Freight ones that are really inexpensive, and we made this nice foot pedal for it and everything. But in the dies, on those dies, I had those stippled so they don't make the heavy cuts, especially in aluminum. But I really need to dress them a little bit. They're biting a little hard on the edges, so I haven't been using it. But those are very versatile, and everybody starts out with those. So they're really nice, inexpensive solutions. All right. And do the other side. It's always a little bit, whether you're English wheeling or shrinking or taking dents out. You can't do anything fast. If you do it fast, you'll be running for the Bondo can, because it won't come out good. Okay, so I've got a few over shrinks I got to take care of. Let me pull that nose in a little more, and then we got to do the ducktail. Alright, that's pretty close. Alright, let's put the stretch dies in. We'll straighten out our mistakes and add that little ducktail. So let's see if this will allow us in, A, and B, whether or not this will have to be dealt with. Let's see if it'll pop it out enough. Yeah, I can feel that spine holding it, but it is moving. It's actually looking pretty good. So the shrink dies moves this line this way. The stretch dies will move this line that way. So it's moved quite a bit, but we still got a little more to go. We got another almost ½ inch or so. Let's see what the other side says. The other side has got to move quite a bit. So that's, well, the other side's about 7/16. This one's about maybe 5/8 or so. But I don't know if it's going to be able to go all the way. We'll find out. Now, this is where the stipple comes in, especially on stretching. If you do aluminum with the what I call the file interface shrink dies, if you tried to do this with aluminum, the aluminum will split. You can split it with these stipples too, but if you take it easy, a little bit, the metal will allow you to go. And if you planish it, you can use a planishing linear stretch die, it'll go forever pretty much. It'll just go down to paper thin. So this is brute strength. It's pulling the metal apart. I call that elastic stretching. And the other is compression stretching. So that came in a little bit. Let's move it a little bit more. Let's see if we can get that to come in. It's real reluctant. That spine is holding it pretty good. But it does have a nice look there. It could stand to go a little more. I might have to lose the spine quite a bit though, if I opt to go that way. We're down to about 5/16 on this one. They're sympathetic, so you do one side and it helps the other side too. So. Alright, so that's down to about 1/4 inch now. And this side's a little bit bigger. It's good 3/8 plus. Let's move that some more. Now if we knock that spine down, we're going to widen this a bunch too. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll just leave it the way it is. Although you don't get the reverse look on with that spine there. So, let's fix the over shrinks first here. I got a little bit of over shrink right here. We'll take that out. Alright, that looks good, except I need more shrinking here. Other than that, that side's not bad. Took a little bit right there. 2 spots, I think. Now we'll put the shrink dies back in and pull it back in a little bit more. Now one way you can fight this demon here is, see this opened up a little bit, is you can over shrink, and then when you planish out on the planishing hammer, you bring it back to where it really needs to be. It's sort of a guesstimate, but it can be done. So that way there you actually go stronger when you shrink it initially. Then when you planish it, it'll hopefully end up exactly where you want it to be. So that's looking good. And then right here I got to bring it in some more. Now that edge is opened up as it's allowing me in again over here. So. So you can see this work is oftentimes very tedious. You can't get frustrated. You have to stay with it, and perfection costs a price. It's the time. There's no way you can make something very nice without spending that time. Alright, so that's pretty close. We're going to have to probably go one more cycle, but it's very, very small amount now. But it looks like I'm going to have to flatten that out. So let's put it in the Harbor Freight wheel. I'm going to run it in the wheel now right on that. It's going to widen this out a little bit, but that might be okay. We'll see what it looks like. We'll just slowly squash that down a little bit. That wheel's biting. Yeah, these are wheel bites here, so probably have to put a little higher crown wheel on. 10 o'clock. So I want to take those little wheel bites out, the bottom anvil, the outer edges. You always got to watch for that. And this wheel's got much higher crown on it, so I'm just going to smooth those out a little bit. There might be some hand work that's going to be needed here to finish this off really nicely. I'm going to come in just a little bit more here, knocking that crown, or that peak down. And now I'm going to try to force it. I'll lift up on it like this. Accentuate that ducktail. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit. I don't have any pressure on here. I'm just purely using it as a fulcrum and lever tool. I'm the lever, the top wheel is now the fulcrum. I think that's looking pretty nice. We might be able to pull this flange down a little bit more. It gives it a little more accent. But let's try a little bit more here. Actually, I wonder if I should go back to that flatter wheel. I got a flatter wheel in here. Let's see if that'll work. Kind of flatten this out here a little. We'll have to do a little hand cleanup, I'm sure. Alright, let's see what that looks like. Alright, let's go back to the stretcher and we'll stretch that a little more there. Alright, sometimes this repetitive stuff is probably painful to watch, like paint drying or grass growing. But in my commentary, I'm trying to add some pertinent information here that's actually some nice little information nuggets. So if you have the patience to listen and you can absorb it, there's some pretty good stuff there that I'm giving out. That's within 1/4 of an inch. I think that's probably all I'll be able to do with that without flattening that out completely. And I think I like that look. That looks pretty nice. We're going to have a little bit of handwork in here. But that's a lot of material I covered tonight, both the planishing hammer and the shrinker, the little subtle points. And the Fender's coming along nicely. We still got to round the front. We got to straighten out this peak, and we have to make the side pieces and then weld them on before we call it finished. And we might do some metal finishing on the top, little stop marks and stuff from the Harbor Freight wheel. That Harbor Freight wheel, the adjuster's real sloppy in them, and they're just poorly made, and that causes those little marks. So I think that's all we're going to do tonight. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It's Wray from Pro Shaper. Keep those comments coming. Give us the likes. And please subscribe. Tell all your friends. And remember, metal is clay.